This time, Brazil, World Cup 82, the day the music died. 'Cause I'll stay a wild rover forever and more. Hello and welcome to By Far the Greatest Team, a podcast in which football fans attempt the impossible to rank once and for all who is the greatest team of all time. My name's Graham Dunn, making the case as ever for Oxford United, and joining me again, and I quite literally mean again, it's King of the Data, it's Jamie Rooney.
We've done this many times. I mean, I can still remember how that football team used to make me smile. So yeah, bye-bye, Miss Brazilian Pie.
Very, very impressive. Much more impressive than last time we did this.
Yeah, I feel there's a sense of deja vu here, Graham. There's something very familiar. Not the fact that we're doing these podcasts, but the fact that we're doing Brazil 1982. I feel like we've done it before, but I've looked through our catalogue and it's not there. So why am I feeling that way?
Yeah, no, it's interesting, isn't it? And in fairness, we have done the 1982 World Cup a few times before. But yes, we have already done Brazil 1982. So as a full disclaimer, we had this brilliant idea of doing a Brazil-Italy double header for the 1982, which we thought would be fantastic. We would base everything around the Brazil-Italy game, which is kind of like a sliding doors moment where what would have been. I mean, sliding doors is obviously the more obvious cultural reference for me to have put in the opening rather than Don McLean's song, but there you go. So yeah, we had that. So we had that idea. We did Brazil in the first half, end on the Brazil-Italy game, and then we'd finish with Italy at the end of that. And then we were going to then go on to the Italy side that won the tournament, finally finishing. So it had a lovely arc about it. The trouble was it quite quickly, or in fact quite slowly, became apparent that we weren't getting through that Brazil side in one episode, were we? We did get a bit carried away with it.
I think I'm so invested in this team emotionally because it left such an impression on me as a 10-year-old boy. I think when we started covering it, I just chucked the notes out the window and just rant in an emotional state of confusion, really. So yeah, I mean, it's good that we're doing this again, and hopefully I can hold on to my emotions and control them a little bit better, have the same level of control over my emotions that the great Sócrates had on the football pitch.
Which would be quite something. So why are we telling you this? Well, partly because... Partly this explains why, this will go on to explain why we were slightly late in posting this pod this week. So what happened was we then decided, okay, we'll abandon the two teams and we'll just do Brazil this week. And then we went, and you went off to Japan. We did Italy whilst you were in Japan. That went well. That went nicely. That was all good. You've come back. We realised that the sound quality was a bit of a disaster on the Brazil one. So we are now having to redo the Brazil one. But which would, of course, given us this perfect opportunity to then give the impression that we were planning to do them as two separate pods all along, which would have been excellent, would have been perfect planning. Other than the fact the Italy pod is absolutely littered with references about how we completely failed to do it in one go. And then also it occurred to me, we probably needed to cover ourselves because at various points we keep referencing what we said this week, and we can always edit this out. But I also think we should do something pretty radical for this one, because obviously we know what we ranked this team as. And the one thing that's not certain, I think, on this is whether we're going to rank them the same. And I think that's probably the journey, because I don't think it's giving too much away, so that we got so carried away with this team that we decided to place a team that got to the quarterfinals of the 1982 World Cup.
It wasn't even really the quarterfinals, as we talk about the format. Technically, you're wrong, but you're actually right in terms of the importance of the match for those who don't know the story.
The last 12. We're talking about a team that got to the last 12 that we ranked as all-time greats.
We did. And we were unanimous on that. I didn't think we didn't even waver. Our blinkers were firmly fixed and we were ranking them. So yeah, good disclosure, Graham. I didn't know you were going to do that. That's good. But I did come prepared because I did a bit of research on this to kind of try to justify why Brazil are not all-time greats. So maybe there's some arguments here now that can sway our judgment.
I think that's it. So I think we know where we did put them. We've had a couple of weeks to cool down, 2-3 weeks to cool down, and we'll see if we still go there. So I mean, this is a super special side, but definitely, you know, our original framing of this did work. The day the music died, the Don McLean reference, and I think it works on sort of many levels. In that case, he's referencing the death of Buddy Holly and Richie Valance in a plane crash. Obviously, no actual people died in the Brazil-Italy game, but it is the end of it. It is absolutely the same kind of end of an era, and particularly if you're of our sort of age, because, you know, Don McLean in American Pie is talking about literally delivering the news as a paperboy at the time, and he's reading about it. And there we were as 12, 13-year-old kids, totally enamored with this side, and who have grown up in this world where Brazil are the ultimate entertainers.
It's in their cultural DNA to play with artistic flair, with rhythm, with beauty. And most of the Brazilian sides leading up to the 1970 victory did that. And then in the 74, 78 World Cups, there was a bit of a steer away from that. Brazil were a bit more physical. But by 1982, after Telê Santana had been appointed manager in 1980, Brazil were back to probably their greatest beauty they've ever showcased the world. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it is the day that beautiful football died. I mean, it still exists and it has been recreated, but pragmatism has definitely been more of a feature in the Brazilian teams that have come after the 1982 team. And you see that no more than in 1994 when Brazil beat Italy on penalties in the World Cup final in the USA after a goalless draw. It's a very different Brazilian team from the one we're about to talk about 12 years before it, with Dunga, the leading star, not Zico.
Yes, very much so. And I think this is also the last team. Now, it's difficult. Maybe there's been some others, but I think it's the last team, regardless of whether it's Brazil or anyone else, who has lived up to the hype. And so going into this, you still, you know, and World Cups in the 80s leading up to it, you would just get these brilliant kind of montages set to Santana of all these great clips of Brazilian flair moments. Almost all of them actually from the 1970 World Cup, to be fair. But, you know, it's set up that this is going to be like this incredible side, and Brazil turn up and we go through the players. See some incredible players. Zico, you know, probably the best player in the world at the time. Certainly the biggest star, I think, in the world at the time. And pretty much from minute one, they live up to the hype. Apart from not winning the thing.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that probably creates the beauty in a bizarre way around this team. The fact that they didn't end up with the big prize, but they leave such an impression on so many. But ultimately, the nation pays the price in terms of beautiful football. It's still there in dispatches, but Brazil as a football nation are not. I don't think they've ever been as beautiful as this 1982 team. They're a lot more pragmatic in terms of their artistry now. They still have beautiful, fantastic footballers and produce beautiful, fantastic footballers. But up until 1982, it was always beautiful football, generally, I should say. But yeah, it's a big step change.
And so Telê Santana, how sort of key is he in this change?
he's come into Brazil in 1980, and his philosophy is pretty clear. He wants to play free, expressive football. He's quite fatherly, but he's also quite strict with the players. But the players absolutely adore him. And his idea is generally, I would rather lose beautifully than win ugly. And that philosophy is absolutely shared in the players that he puts out in each of the games during this 1982 World Cup. You can see the joy in the football. Sócrates has also, said previously that football is joy. If it's not played beautiful, it's not football. And I believe there's truth in that as well. I mean, what attracts people to the game initially is the beauty of it, the flair of it. So yeah, he's come in, and I think he wants to return Brazil back after a pretty soulless, joyless 1974 and 1978 campaign, back to a more beautiful, artistic flow in Brazil. But Brazil have also, they're not just suffered on the World Cup stage, they're also not doing well in the South American Championships. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, bearing in mind how successful and how much esteem the 1970 Brazil World Cup side is, they actually, from that point on, it is a really dark period for Brazil. They don't actually win anything until I think it's 1989 when they next win a Copa America. I mean, it's the best part of 2 decades, and it's pretty incredible to think that a side with access to these players, and we'll start talking about some of them in more detail in a minute. But these players aren't just winning everything because they just seem like a world apart. I think the other thing, which you referenced this a few times on this pod, but I think it's really true of this side, is the World Cup was part of the reason the excitement of the World Cups is this is your only opportunity for 4 years to see these players, because so many of them aren't playing in the domestic game in England or even in Europe at this stage. I mean, this is a bizarrely actually Brazilian club formed team, isn't it?
Yeah, primarily, I think 21 of the 22 players, maybe Falcao's the only one who's not playing in the Brazilian National League at that particular moment. But yeah, there's always it's really hard now to go into any World Cup where there's an air of mystery, because football is the global game and players from every part of the world are playing in all parts of the world. In fact, Brazilians now play, I think they probably play in every single FIFA recognized country, over 200 countries. I'm sure there would be at least one Brazilian playing in every single FIFA league. So that mystery was just what made the World Cup so engaging and so exciting. The fact that you were going to learn something, you were going to discover something. This is the World Cup in 1982, where we've just expanded. FIFA have expanded the tournament from 16 to 24. So they've created problems for themselves because 24 doesn't naturally fall into a round of 16 or a round of 8, or even a direct semi-final. But they find a way, and they find a way by using that second group phase for the third and thankfully final time. But whereby the previous editions in 74 and 78, where there were 16 teams competing, the second group phase was 2 groups of 4. So it's pretty easy to kind of make a semi-final or a final. The top 2, the top 1, whatever, they from both groups go through. And this one, we've got 24 teams where 12 teams qualify. So 50% of the competing nations. And these competing nations is super exciting with the mystery. You've got Kuwait, Algeria, you've got Cameroon for the first time at the World Cup. You know, how Havelange has extended the World Cup. He's promised Asia and Africa you're going to get places on a regular basis, and all for the right reasons. So that air of mystery has just increased. But then we've got this second group phase where we've got 4 groups of 3 teams. So you already have an odd number. So the fixtures aren't going to work out. We already know that one team is going to finish their 2 second round group games before the other 2 teams have finished their second round group games. Does that make sense?
Kind of. No, I know how it works. So this Brazil side has a series of spectacular players, and a lot of it is really based around that midfield. You have. I mean, it's difficult to imagine a stronger midfield 4 or 5 that they have to play with in that sense. What shape did they actually play?
It's adaptable, as we're going to discover. The players had a bit of flexibility, and I think as the tournament went on, they got more comfortable with that flexibility. But essentially, it's a 4-2-2-2. In the first game against the USSR, the Soviet Union, they got one of their most crucial players, Cerezo, who's an absolute fantastic midfielder. And he's part of that quartet you're talking about, which is Cerezo, Sócrates, Zico, and Falcão. And they play as a box in midfield, the 4 of those. But in the first game, because Cerezo is unavailable, Durso comes in and he plays out on the right-hand side. So, and you've got Éder, who's one of the 2 forwards with Serginho, and Éder plays primarily out on the left, but has license to come inside, which he does quite a lot. So there's a bit of an unbalance in the team. It's not the first team that Telê Santana would probably want to put out. Well, definitely not want to put out, because Cerezo would start. And I think that unbalance is showcased in the first game against the Soviet Union, because they go a goal down and then Dursu is then replaced at half time. So that's pretty much his appearance in the 1982 World Cup. And Isidoro comes in to replace him. But the balance is still off a little bit, but Brazil do enough to get back into that game.
Yeah, and there am I saying Brazil lived up to the hype almost from the first minute, and yet they're 1-0 down against the Soviet Union. They scraped through that game with a 2-1 win. Except even when this side scrapes through with a 2-1 win, it isn't just scraping through. The winning goal is just absolutely, from Éder, is just something special, isn't it?
Yeah, well, both goals are.
Yes, you're all right.
I mean, they're 1-0 down in the first half to the Soviet Union, and it's in the 75th minute when they equalise, and it's Sócrates, and it's outside the area, which is a theme with not only where Brazil score their goals primarily. There are a few that they do score in the penalty area, but there's a lot of shots from outside the area as well. But Sócrates, the goal is gorgeous. He drops the shoulder once to cut inside. He then drops the shoulder again to create space that opens up. And then he just rifles one center of the goal right underneath the crossbar. And it sets the Brazilian team alight. And you're right. The winner from Éder in the 88th minute is, this is the moment, I generally believe this is the moment for anyone watching that hasn't seen Brazil before. And I'm speaking as the first person in this example. This goal is the moment you think, boy, there's something special here. There's something special with this bunch of boys. I like them. Because Éder's goal, do you want to describe it? It's just
it's already good, but it's the sort of the casualness of the dummy before
Falcao's dummy is beautiful. Yeah, I've tried to recreate this many of times playing football. It's just, it's definitely come from there when I've played football. That let it, casually let it run through your legs, because your man is in a better position, even though he's still
he's in a better position.
Yards out.
He has to knock it up with one foot and then volley it with the other.
And it's all in the same moment as well. It's just, it's on his left foot, so he could hit it first time and he could put a bit of swerve on it. We know he can do that. But he just has the audacity to think, no, I'll just flick this up in the air and then in the same sweep of motion, just volley it on the outside of his left foot. And it's an inside post goal, which adds to the beauty as well. It's the goalkeeper's side, but it's done with such force, power and speed that the goalkeeper, Desaev, who's a blooming good goalkeeper, he's just stationary. Not the first stationary goalkeeper that Brazil will see in this edition of the World Cup.
Sócrates, now he is interesting, and we should probably spend a bit of time talking about Dr. Sócrates, who is who's an amazing character. But he was actually for a midfielder, he was a pretty prolific goal scorer, actually. And I think he started as a striker, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, and he actually, we'll get to it. He does actually play as a striker again in this edition of the World Cup in the most critical game. But yeah, I mean, he's such a creative player, and I can score goals from anywhere as well. When you look at his showcase, he's scoring goals from inside the 6-yard box, inside the penalty box, outside the penalty box. He really is a magician. But he's he's clearly an intelligent individual. We know that through the fact that he's wearing a headband. Anyone who wears a headband is intelligent, right? And the headband has got basically democracy on it. And yeah, we shouldn't forget that this is a time when Brazil in 1982 were still under the military dictatorship. So Sócrates is using football as his platform to promote democracy in Brazil. And obviously he's got a lot of people that will follow him because of his talents on the football pitch. So he's using that platform, I think, in a very wise way. And we talked about football and politics, and they shouldn't mix, but they always mix. They're always there. And Sócrates gets that. A bit of a chain smoker, but and the slimmest, tallest footballer I think you would ever see. And I mean, he's just a stunner icon, isn't he?
Yeah. I think it's probably the best beard.
Oh,
I think he must be the best bearded footballer, or certainly the most naturally bearded footballer. It just fits perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah, he really knows how to wear face furniture. He nails it. I think him and Gary Birtles are in a league of their own, aren't they?
Oh, yes, you've been doing some Gary Birtles research. Much needed. Yes, and you would think chain smoker. I think a bit of a drinker as well. Perhaps not taking his own doctor's orders because he was a qualified doctor, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's quoted as saying, in the morning I was in the hospital doing an operation on a patient, and in the afternoon I was playing football in front of 50,000. That's how blasé he was about, the fact that he was a man of many, many talents. I don't think he turned professional until he was 24. He's playing football because he was following, at the time as a young man, the career to become a doctor, which he was fully qualified. And then I think the opportunities and the lure of football, and especially the fact that he had an opportunity to just play football in this beautiful way, was just too much of a carrot that he couldn't resist.
Yeah, and he goes on in retirement at various times to continue to work as a doctor. As regular listeners to the pod will be not surprised. I will obviously try and crowbar a mention of Oxford United into this, and as Jamie won't be surprised to because you already heard this. But there is no question. I mean, Sócrates is definitely, lays a claim for the most decorated doctor in football, I would say, having appeared at a World Cup. But Oxford United, I think, have a good claim to fame for intelligence and doctorate. So back in the late 80s to early 90s, Kerry Evans, who was starring as one half of Oxford centre-back pairing at the time, he was in Oxford because he was studying at Oxford University. So that, that's already a clue that he is smarter than the average pro. There aren't too many pros who are going through Oxford University, and he gained first class honours in experimental psychology, and he's gone on whilst continuing to play football. He played more than 100 games for Oxford back then, and has sort of continued in that career. What I particularly like is that he's had a particular interest in traumatic memory. That's one of his specialisms, and we're not quite sure how much playing for Oxford United's defence in the 90s.
Yeah. There's got to be a correlation between the two. It's not coincidence, is it?
It
surely
doesn't feel like it's coincidence. But so Socrates is an absolute star of this side.
Yeah, he is, and just to kind of reinforce the pull that he had inside Brazil. I mean, he once threatened that he would leave Brazilian football if constitutional reform didn't pass, and the Brazilian government backed down because they feared the influence he had over the nation. I mean, that was the power of the man. He also said about football, if you run too much, you're doing it wrong. It's no coincidence he was called Socrates.
It's funny because in this, there is, I think we've talked about football nominative determinism before, and I think there is an argument that you get the ultimate clash come the crucial game against Italy, because you have Socrates, who really does live up to his name as a philosopher, leader, with this hyper intelligence, and Claudio Gentili, who is anything but gentle.
As Zico got to find out when the two matched up, and he had to replace his shirt. Do you know that Socrates had a younger brother that played for the Brazilian national team as well, and in fact went to a World Cup? Yeah, Rai, who played in the he started in the 1994 World Cup, captain Brazil as well, was the younger brother of Socrates, but 13 years younger. And the age difference definitely showed in terms of their styles. So where Socrates was all about joy and expressionism and art and rebellion, Rai was a bit more efficient and responsibility. They both played under Telê Santana as well. Obviously Socrates in this very Brazilian team, and also Rai did when he played for Sao Paulo. Later in Telê Santana's career, after he'd finished with the national team. Yeah, so you've got the brother of Socrates playing in the great Dunga 1994 team. I mean, there you go.
The Soviet Union that's always going to be the tough game in that group. Scotland, who they are drawn with. Scotland are, they are pretty strong still in those days. It's not quite at their Ali MacLeod 1978 peak, if I can call it that, but they're still a pretty strong side. Certainly, one of the stars of the tournament for Brazil was the incredibly attacking fullbacks that they had in this game, including Junior,
played like a number 10. Left back, incredible.
But as we've discussed before, Scotland had their very own Junior, because they unwisely, as it turned out, took the lead with a brilliant effort from David Neri.
Yeah, it's a wonderful goal from David Neri. And the Brazilian team, when I've looked at recordings of the players talking about this game, they had a lot of respect for Scotland. They saw Scotland as a serious opponent, and they feel that in the 18th minute, they're a goal down to a beautiful David Neri goal. And this is a good Scotland team. You've got, Willie Miller and Alan Hansen at the back. You've got Strachan Walk and Asa Hartford in midfield. John Robinson is playing. Steve Archibald, Kenny Dalglish. This is a Paul Sturrock, who we've talked about before.
Yeah.
This is a good collection of players. And we shouldn't forget, Scotland's manager is a certain Jock Stein. I mean, this is a serious guy who knows his way around managing football teams. So I think Brazil respected Scotland, and Scotland took the lead. But then Brazil just kind of found their samba feet. And again, we're seeing a collection of pretty fantastic goals.
Yeah, I mean, Brazil having gone a goal down, they come back and they score 4 times, they win 4-1. I think, once again, why do I think this Brazil side came to the party? Well, we've all seen, teams that have kind of names that you're going to, you think are going to be good players, but, do they deliver on the day? And there you go, the 4 goal scorers, Zico, Oscar, Éder and Falcão. I mean, it's a pretty decent 4, isn't it?
It's part of the reason it's principally one of the main reasons why people are falling in love with this football team. He says controlling his emotions or trying to control his emotions. Yeah, I mean, Éder was wild. He really was. I mean, unpredictable as well from what I remember. I think he in the '86 World Cup, I think he was dropped for disciplinary reasons as well. And then you got Zico, he's just, he's the white Pele. He is Pele. He is the new Pele. He's just fantastic. Little Arthur, Zico is his nickname.
Mm.
Yeah, because I think his full name, Arthur Túnez Coimbra, doesn't sound as good as Zico in my personal opinion, but I'll reserve judgment on that.
No, definitely so. Yeah, Zico, there's so much hope based on him, and he's exactly so because he plays in the same. There are so many similarities with Pele, the way he plays, the the four-letter name, and Zico. What a Zico! What it's up there with Evel Knievel. It's just this massively iconic name. You have to walk the talk if you're going to call yourself Zico. A free kick specialist. I did track down. Now there's a bit of confusion as to how many goals. There is one report that, including friendlies and bits and pieces, that he'd scored over 100 free kicks in his career. It's him right up there. That seems to be a bit unconfirmed. At the very least, there are definitely 62 or 63 kind of confirmed free kicks, and he could definitely take a free kick.
They scored beautiful goals. They were not just practicing the art in how they played. One touch, very rarely more, 3 or more touches by any player. Forward play in triangles. Long before Guardiola, who's absolutely influenced by the style of football going on in this World Cup, played in Barcelona. Brazil played a few of their games in Barcelona as well. It's just every goal just mirrors the beauty of everything this team is trying to produce under the leadership of this manager, which he just has a wonderful, wonderful vision.
Come the final game, they're playing New Zealand. This would be the game you'd expect them to win, which obviously they do. For once, they don't go behind, which is quite impressive. And this is kind of this is where Zico really announces himself, doesn't he? It's not quite it's a sort of a scissor kick, isn't it? The first goal.
Yeah, a half scissor kick, I think, is a good way to describe it. It's a great cross. And then Zico just almost horizontal as he connects with the ball and volleys it into the net. And then 3 minutes later, he gets a second. And he's really living up to the hype of being the next Pele.
Yeah, and I think, like I say, at that point you obviously have, and we'll talk about him in the after the break. We obviously have Maradona, who's really coming to the party at that stage. But I think Zico would still. This would have. He was at his prime for this tournament, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Maradona is his first World Cup, and yeah, absolutely, we can cover him a bit more in the next game that Brazil get involved in. But yeah, I mean, Zico is one of the superstars coming into this World Cup. You would have probably heard about him, but you wouldn't have seen much of him because the nature of the global game was not global at that point. It was very localized. So you would have only seen pieces of Zico in dispatches. You wouldn't have seen the full version of him in a 90-minute game. And we do against New Zealand. He's brilliant in all of the games, really, in the Scotland game as well. He's central to making sure that the play is progressive, that the play is fast, that it's 1-2 touch football. And Zico is very central to that.
Falcão gets another, and then he's I think he's a bit maligned, the number 9 Serginho, who's sort of like almost like an old school target man, isn't he? He doesn't quite seem to feel as though he fits into this side.
I mean, it's important to say that Serginho is the top goal scorer in the Brazilian league, and he's incredibly well respected. And Telê Santana likes him, and he sees him as his number 9. But yeah, I think it might be unfair to say if Zico is the new Pele, then Serginho is the original Emil Heskey in terms of the, powerful but clumsy. I think him and the goalkeeper Perez were kind of mocked by the press as the weak links, but they're not weak links. There's no weak links in this team, and the fact this team is so fantastically brilliant, it's resorted to some people in the media to try to find the weak links, and they've pinpointed Serginho as one of the weak links.
And I mean, you're right to mention the keeper, because I think the change in Brazilian goalkeepers over the years is extraordinary, isn't it? Because they are now kind of the best keepers in the world, probably over the last 10 years or so. But back in 1982, they don't have a great reputation, do they? And they're seen as the weak link, I suspect.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a joke a long time ago that a lot of people wouldn't remember this, because Brazil does produce some of the best goalkeepers in the world and has done for a period of time, as you mentioned. But yeah, I mean, we brushed over it quickly, but the first goal that Bau scores for the Soviet Union is a clanger from Perez. I mean, it's outside the box. It goes through a few Brazilian players, so maybe he's unsighted a little bit. But at the near post, he seems to get hands on the ball, but spills it into his own net, or it goes through him quite weakly into the goal. So yeah, I mean, we know what the English press can be like when there's a mistake at a major tournament. So the Brazilian press are, I think, probably magnify that by the English press by 10, 20, 100. So they're on his back. But Telê Santana is loyal to his players, and he knows what his team is, and he trusts the goalkeeper Perez. But yeah, Perez is seen as another weak link, if there's such a thing.
Yeah, definitely so. So Brazil qualified top of the group, 10 goals for, 2 goals against. That that's quite impressive by any standards. But I think when you add in that, half a dozen of those goals are probably potential goals of the tournament, it's the way they've done it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean 10 goals in 3 games is super impressive, no matter who your opponents are. And, New Zealand are in there, but Scotland and the Soviet Union are good European teams at that moment. They've averaged over 60% possession collectively in those games. They've got 450 odd passes, above 450 passes in each group game as well, which at that time is an incredible amount. Their short passing game is spectacular. They and it helps that they've got this boxing midfield with Sócrates, Zico, Cerezo, and Falcão. It just allows them to link, and you've got Éder drifting in, so it allows them to play in short, tight spaces and to move the ball forward in these short, tight spaces.
And with those bombing on fullbacks as well, it's quite something. So Brazil have made it to the next stage. We will talk about how they cope with the group of death in the second half.
Do you have a team in mind that you'd like us to cover? Well, just don't keep it to yourself. Let us know. You can get in touch with us across the socials on X or Blue Sky. Graham is at Said and Dunn, and I am at Couch Pundito. That's on X and formerly known as Twitter, and also on Blue Sky. Remember, greatness isn't just the big and famous. We love a cult classic, and we love a good underdog story too. And also, watch this space. Some new channels coming your way.
So welcome back. We're talking about Brazil 1982 World Cup, and they have coasted and entertained their way through the group stage, but here they are in the group of death. Now, what is the group of death, Jamie?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because it's a term that's used in tournament football, World Cup football in particular. Quite often, it's almost like as soon as the World Cup draw is done nowadays, there's this immediate search to identify which is the group of death. But what I understand, and it does have its own wiki page, so I'm going to almost paraphrase from the wiki page. The origins of the group of death comes from the 1970 World Cup, when Mexican journalists decided that the group of England, defending champions, Brazil, the 1962 world champions, and then would go on to be the 1970 world champions, Czechoslovakia, the 1962 runners-up, and Romania, a pretty good football team at the time, were in the same group. And the Mexican journalists called it the group of death. And it was born then. And I believe the second time it was used is in this very case that you've just outlined now. In 1982, when Italy, Brazil, and Argentina were in this group, the group of death was still a fairly new thing.
Well, what is quite interesting is I think you can make a case that there are two groups of death at this, and we've knocked the format, but they have managed to produce one group which is undoubtedly a group of death, which is Brazil, Argentina, and Italy, the best team in the world, the holders, and one of Europeans' biggest football nations. But it may not be a group of death, but it's definitely a group of pretty ill, and that would be England, West Germany, and Spain, the tournament hosts. Unless Spain aren't the Spain that they are, this is Spain of the dark horses era. But that's a pretty strong group, isn't it?
It's a very strong group, and it's a group that didn't produce many goals, as we've discussed. So it could have been the group of dead boring. I think our group C here with Brazil, Italy, and Argentina is a more worthy group of death. As you pointed out, best team in the world, defending champions, and will be the champions of '82. I mean, it doesn't get any harder than that.
You definitely get really excited when there's a group of death, which actually is usually just about the fourth team in the group being not rubbish. That usually in the qualifying bit is what it comes down to. But it is quite nice having a group that you can get excited about quite early on, because there's some jeopardy about it, because one of the big guns is going to be going out. The flip side of that is you do then end up having lost some of the big guns, haven't you? It's like in the FA Cup when everyone gets excited when Man United draw Arsenal in the third round, and then you gradually realise, oh, hang on, these semi-finals aren't anything to get too excited about.
So I think that's the beautiful unpredictability of knockout football. I know, seedings are important and they have a place, but randomness is also quite a wonderful thing.
So it's worth saying the first game in this group it's sort of pretty much, not totally, but it pretty much ends Argentina's interest. Italy, more on this next week, but Italy pull off an incredible 2-1 backs against the wall victory against Argentina, and that puts Argentina on the back foot for this. So we get to this game, Brazil, Argentina, and it starts off fantastically well. This is where we see the Éder free kick. I mean, Zico normally takes them, but Éder fancied this one for some reason.
Yeah, it's quite some way out. I don't know approximately, but we're probably close to 35, 40 meters. It's definitely between the halfway line and the edge of the penalty box, the Argentinian penalty box. And I've seen clips of Zico where people have said, yeah, you've got this. And because he is the free kick taker, as we've established. And he's like, only a madman is going to be shooting from that distance. It's just far too far to shoot from. And then up steps our madman, our wild left winger who likes to roam freely with the beautiful hair, wearing number 11, Éder. And it's just an absolute thing of beauty. And there's definitely a very young, impressionable Roberto Carlos taking notes.
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely. I mean, there's no sort of subtlety about this. I mean, there is. On the one hand, there is. I mean, he gets the ball to move, but it is the power of it. And it absolutely slams the bottom of the underside of the crossbar, and Zico's there to tap in. Probably the only tap in Brazil get in the entire tournament.
It's almost like no one knows who's going to take the free kick because Éder is so far back before his run up.
It is. It's compared to the modern day. I mean, it's like Bob Willis starting off on his long run, isn't it? Coming in from behind the side screen to take it.
Yeah, I know.
It is a thing of wonder.
Yeah, he hits it with the outside of his left foot, and it's almost like he's aiming right, but the ball curls off. That bend that Roberto Carlos was able to achieve in the tournoi, that incredible goal where he just left Barthez rooted. It looks like it's similar, but this one is more direct to the keeper, and it just swerves away. And as you said, it absolutely funds off the inside of the crossbar, and there's Zico, first responder, onside, bang. Brazil have a early lead against their greatest rivals.
Yeah, I mean, this is a kind of a sort of a massive grudge match on the one hand, Argentina, Brazil. Out, even though it's in Europe, it is hot there, isn't it? Spain, throughout this whole tournament, it is properly hot. It is probably more Latin American conditions, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, how I remember, hot Spanish afternoons. The games are played in the afternoons, and I think it's so hot. Even the TV cameras have got an orange tint to them.
I think this game probably is what underlines Brazil, doesn't it? I mean, they are they're just in control of this, aren't they? Maradona doesn't really get in the game.
Well, they do a really good job on Maradona. They kind of mark him, but they also mark the space in front of him. So what they're trying to do is deny him the ball, and they do this really well. And they do this as collective. And this is the importance of this team and what Santana is set out. I mean, he's stated that all of this individual brilliance can only work if we operate as a collective. And in this game, there is a variance of tactics. They're still playing beautiful, expressive football, but they're trying to deny the key player, Maradona, the ball. But having an early lead, and as you rightly said, Argentina have lost against Italy. Argentina have to win this game. So once they take the lead, Argentina have got to go for it, which means they've got to press, which means there's going to be spaces. And this team are probably one of the best in the world at this moment, easily the best in the world, on picking spaces.
And they get two more goals towards the end of the game. Our man Serginho gets another, and then the roving fullback Junior gets the third. And as with, I mean, you've referenced it just when you're watching the highlights of this game. There are shots are raining in from everywhere, aren't they? It's a tournament. It's a tournament of long shots as a general rule. There's an awful lot of long range shots across the board in this game. But in this game, every clip is sort of a shot from distance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a showcase of beautiful goals. The 1982 World Cup. There are some absolute thunderbolts from distance, and they're all doing it with this beautiful football, the Adidas Tango. In my mind, probably the greatest football ever. Maybe the Telstar from 1970. I do like the Telstar. Yeah. The black and white patch football. I think that's a classic ball. But the Adidas Tango, this version of the Adidas Tango, with the solid black lines on the patches of leather is a thing of beauty. So why wouldn't you score beautiful goals with a beautiful football, with a beautiful cinematic backdrop, which is the 1982 World Cup?
Now, I know I've already crowbarred my Oxford United reference in, but it would be remiss of me not to mention the most obvious and startling Oxford United World Cup pack. So, and unlikely out of all of these, that Argentina, they do grab a consolation goal, and that goal is scored by Ramon Diaz, future Oxford United manager. and River Plate manager, which I wonder which he remembers more fondly. So we are set up then. It all sets up for, and this is, that kind of group. We talked about how the group stage, having 3 games played consecutive or not at the same time, can work pretty much against you and against the narrative and against the drama, but it definitely works in favour of the drama for this, because it means Italy-Brazil becomes that's essentially, hence my mistake from earlier, it's essentially a quarterfinal. The key thing being that because Brazil have won 3-1 and Italy won 2-1, the Brazil only need to draw and Italy need to win. And Italy have only won 1 game in this tournament so far. They have been the perennial slow starters, particularly one Paolo Rossi.
Yeah, Paolo Rossi, who we'll probably get the opportunity to talk about in next week's pod.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, next week's
I
pod
think we
was
did
done
talk
before
about
this week's pod, so we definitely talked about Paolo Rossi. He hasn't scored a goal. So yeah, the 5th of July, 5:15 local time in Spain, in Barcelona. I don't know the temperature, but I can imagine it's going to be north of 30. It definitely looked like it was north of 30. Yeah, I mean, going into this, Brazil with their expressive, artistic football, that kind of samba beauty that has entertained through this tournament, at this stage, I feel safe in saying are everyone's favourite team. Probably not everyone's favourite second team. I think they are. They've replaced the first teams. I think even Italy have probably got a soft spot for this Brazilian team. It's impossible not to. So, I mean, not only does most of the world, I'm guessing, want Brazil to win this game, I think most of the world are thinking Brazil will win this game because of everything they've seen before them. Brazil have at this stage, it's incredible. They've had 7 different goal scorers at this World Cup already. So they've had 15 players take shots on goal. And that doesn't include the goalkeeper. I think they've used 16, 17 players. This is an expressive football team, and they're facing up against the Italians, the inventors of Catenaccio, the padlock, who play defensive football. Now, we know from this Italian team, there's more to them than just classic, stereotypical Italian football. They do play on the counter-attack, and they do play with speed, and they've got some exceptionally brilliant players. One of those players, Paolo Rossi, just hasn't turned up for this tournament, and there's questions why he's still playing, but he does find a way to announce himself. And I think this is the thing for Brazil. It's bad timing for them that this player is unbottled in this game.
Yeah, they can count themselves unlucky. Rossi's been through 4 lots of 90 minutes without hitting the target or even looking like hitting the target. And within 5 minutes, he scored. And Italy obviously then have something to hang on to. Now, they don't actually hang on to it because up steps Sócrates.
Oh, it's a great goal. I mean, this is beautiful. I mean, again, he has the way he just drops his shoulder, moves into space, and just leaves defenders in his wake. It's just incredible. He does it so many times during this World Cup, and this is another occasion where he powers into the penalty box from a tight angle, and with the defender lunging, Sócrates puts one in at Zoff's near post. And you look at pictures of Zoff as it's gone in past his near post. Zoff looks drunk. He stays. It's almost like he's been poleaxed because he doesn't understand how the ball has gone in, because there's only the width for the football that Sócrates could aim for. Zoff is thinking all day long, he's putting this in the far post. And you can see he's perplexed. But the beauty of that goal as well is the 2 puffs of chalk dust that happen simultaneously. So as the Italian defender slides in, he takes that chalk dust puff that smokes up into the air. And at the same time, the ball hits the goal line and the 2 puffs of chalk dust come up at the same time. Now, that has nothing to do with anything apart from the fact that it's contributing to the artistry of this brilliant football team and this brilliant footballer Sócrates who we're talking about.
Yeah, it's so graceful. And I think it's kind of one of the kind of ultimate. It's the ease of the near post finish. It's so glorious, and that he sits off down on his backside has an added bonus to it. So kind of you think normal service is resumed, and Brazil are Brazil are playing well, but they're just a bit loose. They get punished a couple of times. When you look at that second Rossi goal,
I think it's uncharacteristic from everything I understand about Cerezo. This is a mistake that has haunted him ever since. So he passes it. I think this pass went into Brazilian textbooks in terms of you never make this type of pass in any circumstances of a football match. You always pass the ball outside and never inside, because he does. He lays the ball inside. Well, there's 3 Brazilian players, but he lays the ball into spaces where none of them know who the pass is for.
Yeah.
So there's a delay, and Rossi is like a lightning bolt. He absolutely jumps onto that delay, and he's still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. It is it's a great finish, and it's hit with a lot of power and a bit of swaz on it as well. I mean, it doesn't look too great from Perez.
The weakling
from behind the goal in slow motion, but I'm prepared to cut him some slack on it, but because it doesn't really go in the corner of the of the net. But there you go. Unbelievably, Brazil are a goal behind again. After this is all within the first half hour of the game. Really nail Brazil, because Brazil have to, but all they have to do is score, isn't it? All they have to do is score, and they will be going through.
They do get back into the game in the second half with Falcão. But what's interesting about this is that Italy seem to stay on top always. So even when Brazil get back in after Sócrates equalises, Rossi scored again within minutes, and Italy just keep the upper hand. And the psychology must be there, because the Brazil know a draw's enough. A draw's enough.
Yeah,
and it goes against their nature, because they play expressive football to win football matches. That is the purpose of what they're aiming to do, regardless of the circumstances. But it's definitely in their psyche. But then when Falcão does, I mean, it's a beautiful equaliser for 2-2. It's not long again before Italy have the upper hand. But there are some critical factors that happen in between the Falcão equaliser and the next deciding goal that happens in that football match.
So the Falcão equaliser, which is the thing of beauty, and that is, of course, the one where we see the kind of precursor to the Marco Tardelli celebration. And it is a brilliant celebration, but you think you've seen everything. And Falcão, the sheer joy as he's kind of running off. And I'm not sure where they're all running to.
I think there's a real belief. There's relief, but there's a belief that, okay, we're not going to fall behind for a third time in this football match. We've now got that critical second goal. We have parity, we're level. So I think there's a mixture of that joy is going on, that they firmly believe now that that's it, game's done.
And I think in with any other team, you just be waxing lyrical about this goal because of the way it's the little dummy which, well, it's not. It's a sort of semi-dummy which takes out about 3 Italian defenders all falling off in one direction. It's so beautiful to see, and then very similar to Rossi's hit. It's just sheer power and a bit of bend on it. It's a thing of beauty. So you do think that is the moment. So what did Brazil do? Do they just try and then, this is like, I think, the 75th minute or something, isn't it? They score.
Falcão equalizes in the 68th minute.
68th.
And obviously there's an idea that a draw is enough with 20 minutes to go, 22 minutes to go. But this will go against the nature of what this team is designed to do. Telê Santana hasn't set them out to play defensive football in any way, shape or form. So to expect them to play defensive football, to hold out, would go against what they have been working towards. It would be a complete U-turn on what this team has been designed to do on the football pitch, which is to dominate possession, to have endless shots on goal from all distance. But what Santana does, he changes our man, Serginho, is replaced by the midfielder, Isidoro, who came on as the substitute against he come on as substitute a number of times during this tournament, actually. And he goes into midfield and Santana changes the shape. So Sócrates moves from midfield and goes to plays as the number 9. And as you've already established, it's not a position that's alien to Sócrates. He can play this position. But this is a critical moment. So Santana is changing his midfield, that midfield that's been so dominant, and he's put in Isidoro on the kind of the right-hand side. So he's creating spaces. Now, I don't know if that contributes to Italy's third goal, but the goal comes within 5 minutes of that change. And it comes from a corner. But in between that, Brazil are still playing expressive football. They're still creating chances. They're still looking like they're going to be expressing themselves to win this football match.
Yeah, it's the best chance to win it. As you say, Italy get their third goal. Rossi gets his third. I mean, it's an incredible, and as you say, we'll talk about it in the next week, but it's an incredible rejuvenation story for him. And then Brazil have 15 minutes, throw themselves at it, and they try everything. Bob Willis runs in and has one of his long range free kicks. I mean, he's running for even further on this one, and Brazil just can't get there. There aren't any. I mean, Zoff makes a couple of saves. I mean, there are no sort of.
Zoff makes a brilliant save from, I think it's Oscar, one of the centre back. Well, no, Lazinho, the other centre back. Lazinho has a header, and it's low, and it's inside the 6-yard box, and it's going very close to the box. Zoff gets down exceptionally well and needs a couple of scrapes at it to cling onto it, and he literally holds it on the goal line. No goal line technology back in 1982, but the ball is clearly not gone over the goal line. And I think Dino Zoff credits that save as his Gordon Banks moment. That's Zoff will say that's the greatest and probably the most important save he made, because that confirms that Italy will go on and win this football match.
It is an incredible save, actually, to actually hold the ball as much as anything from there. It's worth saying Italy could have won more comfortably. They do have a goal chalked off wrongly, I think, for offside. It's difficult to tell from the angle I'm watching, but most reports suggest it should have stood. And so this all makes this such a strange story because the Italy performance is fantastic. There are so many things to enjoy, and if I fast forward next week or last week, we are going to enjoy that Italy side and what they go on to achieve. But it is the end of a dream, and it's probably the last time that any credible side set up to play this way with a chance of actually achieving it, because they were the best side of that tournament and somehow they have failed to go through.
Beautiful football being played in indeed the most stunning artistic way, and it is art football, as it's been described. But yeah, it's the day that art football died. It's the day that Brazilian football started reshaping. And it was also, Graham, if I can just go back to it, it wasn't the last thing that happened as well, because in the back here, I've got my original Panini 1982 sticker album. And I didn't know for definite, but I had an idea that because I used to fill out the scores all the time in the inside cover. You'd always get the inside cover where you could fill out the scores there.
Yeah.
So I had an idea coming into this that I think because I'm such a baby, and actually to give it a bit more context, this is the first time I ever cried at football, and I literally was gutted. Tears were rolling. I hated football. I hated Italy, something that I would rectify quite quickly, not because of Italy, because of what they had been responsible for taking this team out of the World Cup when this team was absolutely a thing of beauty, and I desperately wanted them to win the World Cup. So I cried my eyes out, and because I'm a baby and because I sulk, when it comes to football. And at the time, at 10 years old, it had taken me ages to recover from this. I stopped, and I checked this, I stopped filling out my scores. So I don't know if you can see that. I mean, it's tricky. You can see Group C,
Oh,
Brazil,
yeah.
Italy is blank. So I stopped, and you can see I've not continued with filling out any of the scores. So I've not even put the finalists. I haven't even added the finalists because I was sulking. So, Panini sticker album out the window. I'm not doing the scores anymore. So, yeah, it wasn't just the last time that Brazil played football in a beautiful way. It was the last time that I added a score into my 1982 Panini sticker album as well.
Incredible stuff. Now we've touched on it. The Brazil change after this. They still have I don't want to come down with a downer on Brazil. They still have a swagger. There's still an excitement whenever Brazil play in World Cup. When you've got, and we'll have God knows how many group games at this next World Cup to look forward to. The Brazil one is the one you'll make an effort to see. You'll always do it. That style it remains. They are living a little bit off reputation, but they do still. They are a little bit extra special, but they're never the same again, are they?
No, they're laced with pragmatism now, and the pragmatism came as a permanent fixture in Brazilian football after this game. And in 86, Santana did try to play the same way again, but Brazil got undone in the quarterfinals against France on penalty kick. Zico missed the penalty. But I think the Brazilian public, I'm generalizing, decided that, winning was more important than beauty. You want both. But I think Brazil wanted that fourth World Cup, and not getting an 82. They decided we need to change the shape of what we do, and they became more pragmatic. Beauty's there, you're right. They produced some amazing footballers: Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Kaká, Neymar. They produced some incredible football players, but they also play with a bit more steel and a bit more structure, and less of the art that was on Showcase in 1982. There's some beautiful quotes from Santana after this game with Italy. One of them I love is that, because he didn't blame any of his players. He didn't go out publicly and blame any of his players. Because I think there was a lot of flack for Soriso because of the cheap pass that led to Rossi's second goal. And Santana just simply said, we didn't fail. Football failed us. It's as simple as that. I mean, it's such a beautiful way. He even bows out with beauty in terms of what he saw on the football pitch. Graceful man.
Well, we should get round to ranking this side. Now, we have ranked this side once before, as I flagged earlier, and the way we've been talking about it, you can see how we tempted to put them up in that top bracket again. But do they deserve to be all-time greats, Jamie?
I did look at this in terms of, did we get the ranking fair? Or did we just go on the emotional roller coaster and just get lost in the whole thing? So between the two recordings of this one, I hope it's two and not three, but some time to reflect. So, Brazil 82 changed the language of football in many ways. The fact that we have, the way that Wenger's Arsenal team played, the fact that we have Guardiola's Barcelona team, the fact that we have Bielsa playing the football he plays, I think is born. They left an impression on some future brilliant football managers. So that is super important in terms of the legacy. I mean, there is a question. It's like, what's more important in football? Is it to win, or is it to play with joy and art and beauty? What I like about what we do on these things is not only do we have a vertical ranking system, they're horizontal as well. So the question is, what is greatness, really? So are we talking about, in the broader sense of what's all-time greatness? And for me, they leave an impression on the world. And the fact that people still know about this team, and they only made the last 12 of the World Cup in 1982. They didn't go beyond the last 12. The fact that they're still up there. And I could probably, I mean, I prepared so much on this, but I'm not going to go for it, to be honest, because there is a lot of emotion attached to this. But I would say they became football mythology, and I like the fact that they failed a little bit because it just adds to the beauty of this story. And I think this Brazilian team still, second time round, rank as all-time greats. And I'm gonna stick
And sticking.
with a little bit less emotion and a bit more pragmatism.
Interesting.
That this team deserve to be all-time greats.
It definitely occurred to me that, as you say, it's kind of looking. You can flip the coin both ways, or are you glass half full or glass half empty? This is either the team that set the standard and kept the dream alive, kept trying to do. They were the last great Brazil side of this era of this type, or they're the team that ended it. They're the team who are by failing to win. They are responsible for us no longer having Brazil as entertainers, Brazil as the flair players, and you could definitely make an argument that they are culpable. That they should possibly, maybe they should only be edge of greatness, something like that. But I am a glass a half full man. I think for the most part, I think this is a team that score 16 goals across 5 matches. That's not like 10 goals in one, and then they score. I mean, 2 goals is the lowest amount that they score. I think you can point to 5 or 6 of the goals as being some of the best goals you've seen at the World Cup, and they've just been involved in these incredibly iconic moments. And I don't think there's a side that comes close to that level of iconic flair and enjoyment other than the 1970 team. And we are biased because we didn't get to watch the 1970 team, and we did the 1982 team. But I think for that reason, I'm going to stand by it as well. I think we say Brazil 1982, all-time greats.
They are the best example, the best team to demonstrate what football means, what it means to be a football fan, what it means to be in love with this amazing game, because they showed the world what football can be. And they did it with total expressionism. And I'm glad our decision is the same as it was previously, but maybe we've been a bit more mature.
I feel there's a bit more science gone into it. It's fractionally. This time around, we've been fractionally better. It's still a bit. Oh my God, Sócrates! But
Did you know that he? I think when he was 50 years old, he came to English football on a short-term contract.
wow,
He played for I think they're called Garford Town.
wow,
I think he was a player manager. And he only stayed for one game, and he was mobbed, Beatles-like. It was Beatles-like the way he was mobbed. This is a 50-year-old Brazilian going to Garford Town and being absolutely mobbed. But he did leave shortly afterwards, and he left still being an incredible diplomat, because he said the weather was very democratic. The weather in the United Kingdom was very democratic.
Oh, I love
and
it.
with that, he was back on the plane to Rio.
Oh, too good. So the best team in the world in 1982 has departed the World Cup, but we are not finished with this tournament. Unbelievably, we're going to do our 5th team from that tournament. We are going to look properly at this Italy side. It's an incredible story, and Italy, of course, go on to win the tournament. And so next week, we will finally get to the winners of the 1982 World Cup. We'll see you then.